We will go ahead and get this party started. So again, welcome and thank you for being here. We will be joined by some amazing co-hosts today as we wind our way through our event. So the Reunion Project would like to welcome you. Slide. So I am Bridget Piku. For those of you who don't know me, I am a nurse by trade. I am HIV and AIDS care certified as part of my commitment to the work as both a nurse and an advocate and a woman living with HIV. So I will be running through some slides and then we'll have a conversation with some other advocates about finding your voice. And then we'll do a Q&A session and get comfy and cozy and get to know each other a little better. Next slide. So just some quick housekeeping. The event will be recorded and it will go out to everyone who's registered tomorrow. There is closed captioning available. You know, a lot of us are familiar with Zoom already, but if you hover down at the bottom, you'll see the menu and be able to turn on the closed captioning. Please use the chat feature to ask questions and use the chat often. You know, you can chat with each other. We love to see it. Ask your questions. We'll try to get to as many as we can towards the end, and then we'll try to monitor the chat. If I miss anything or miss a question, please flag me, let me know, because we want to make sure that we get everyone's voice heard. If you wish to remain anonymous, keep your video turned off, and then you may also want to consider renaming yourself during the webinar. Now would be a good time since we're recording. And then please take a moment to fill out the evaluation that's going to come. It really does help with programming and make sure that we are doing a good job at what we're doing. So I always love this picture because this is what advocacy and unity and years of lived experience looks like. So founded in 2015 by activists living with HIV, the Reunion Project, also known as TRP lovingly to most of us, is an alliance of long-term survivors of HIV, collaborating with local and national HIV advocates, providers, and researchers. Together, we convene, and connect individuals and communities, sharing our experiences of survival and loss while honoring the past and developing successful strategies for living and supporting one another today and into the future. And no webinar is complete without our thank yous. So definitely want to shout out Gilead and Vive Healthcare, Thera Technologies, and Broadway Cares for their unyielding support, which is so important in the times that we're in right now. So shout out to them and thank you so much for your support. And so once again, what we're here for. So we're talking about saying it and claiming it, your voice in HIV care. And this is specifically to your voice in finding your voice in advocating for yourself as we navigate the healthcare system. As a nurse, I recognize that the healthcare system is broken in a lot of ways and feels broken in but I also know that there are some really good people that are in the healthcare system. And so we just want to make sure that we have the tools that we need to be able to say what we need and get what we need. So thank you for joining us. I'm still letting people in the chat in the room. So next slide. So like I said, I have some amazing co-hosts and panelists that will be taking part in the conversation a little bit later. So let me introduce you to each of them. First off, we have Sierra CC Coven. Every time I say that, I've been telling her I want to start calling myself Bridget BBPQ because I love the CC part. It's exciting. She is an 11-year survivor of HIV, diagnosed at the age of 20 in a small rural town in the southern region of the United States. And since her diagnosis, she has found great strength helping and healing and using her master's degree in human services, coupled with raw life experiences to advocate for those living with HIV. CC has been a blogger for the Well Project's A Girl Like Me since 2018, and through the blog, she's found an extended family of women who are also affected by HIV. She's devoted much of her time to raising HIV awareness in her own community with the hope of contributing to the destigmatization of HIV. According to CC, we may not be able to cure this virus yet, but we can heal. After all, healing is voluntary and absolutely attainable. If you are not familiar with CC and Healing is Voluntary, please look up her blog. She is one of my favorite writers on the planet. And when it says real, raw, and honest, that is what she is. So look up Healing is Voluntary. We have Greg Fordham. Greg is a community HIV educator and prevention specialist at the LGBT Center in Norfolk, Virginia. His work involves conducting interviews on behalf of the CDC's National HIV Surveillance Project to collect information on HIV-related behaviors, HIV testing, and the use of HIV prevention services. Greg previously worked for 6 years as the coordinator for Men Who Have Sex with Men at the AIDS service organization Access AIDS Care. He's also been instrumental in raising awareness in the Norfolk community, through his innovative education programs that use music, spoken word, and dance, as well as traditional methods, such as community speakers. The way Greg sees it, once he's got their attention, then education, testing, and engagement in care are just steps away. He also has been married to his wife for the last 15 years. Snaps up for that because that's not easy. Thanks for being here, Greg. We appreciate it. And then lastly joining me, but certainly not least, is going to be Kim Skeet. Kimberly June Skeet started her career in specialty healthcare at DAP Health in Palm Springs in 2019. We used to work together. She's a great person. During her time at DAP Health, Kim provided care under the early intervention services. She helped link new HIV patients into care and relink back into medical care patients that had fallen out of achieving their care. Kimberly also served as the co-chair and chair of the Greater Affirming Health and helped DAP build their first gender affirming care team. Kim went on to work for Borrego Health in 2020 as a certified peer specialist, and she worked with the transgender and non-gender conforming youth. During the pandemic, Kimberly worked to create and deliver mental health presentations for the LGBTQIA+ community, specifically the transgender and non-conforming individuals. Kimberly helped to link those individuals to mental health services during a time of immense need. And during 2021, Kimberly joined the Association of Nurses in AIDS Care and currently is our president. Snaps up for that. During her time, she actually helped us bring home our 2022 chapter of the year award. We're amazing. And I personally appreciate Kimberly's honesty and her ability to connect folks who may not even know that they're connected. So Kimberly, thank you for being here as well. And then lastly, just a little bit more about me. I'm the stakeholder liaison for the Well Project. We are an organization that focuses primarily on women and girls living with and affected by HIV. I do this by working in policy, advocacy, and my specialty and the special place in my heart is medical spaces. At the intersections of being Black and being a woman and living with HIV, I combine all of those things. Oh, and let's not forget aging, because I'm firmly in that category too. I combine all of those things to help folks bridge the gap between living with HIV and their clinicians, which is why I'm so excited to be here with all of you. All right. And so I think we are ready to jump in. Bear with me, because even after all of this time, I'm still terrible at sharing slides. So I'm going to come here. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Minimize all of this. Try to move my screen. And are we in presentation mode?
Not yet. Now we're in presenter mode, so we see your notes as well as the slides.
Let's try this again then. Oh, I know why. It is because the computer is a dual screen. So I have a small screen on the bottom. And when that happens, it shares down. So let me lock that screen.
I can share them on my end too, Bridget, if you want.
There we go. Let me see. Now, let's just share. Now you see it.
It's coming. Yes.
Excellent, excellent. All right. So, once again, we are talking about your voice in HIV care, naming and claiming it, right? There we go. So I've been lately, because this has always been a quote that I absolutely love, starting my presentations with sharing this quote, which is from Audre Lorde, and it says that there is no such thing as a single issue struggle because we do not live single issue lives. And if there is ever a group that is more true for, it is those of us living with HIV. So what we're going to run through is a brief overview of the challenges that we face, understanding our needs, advocacy and self-advocacy, finding your voice, and then pull it up practical strategies that we can employ to make all of this happen. All right, so as we get into, hang on one second. Sorry, you guys, technical difficulties. Do you guys see my screen flickering?
Yes.
So identifying our challenges. What are some of our challenges? So stigma is obviously always at forefront, right? And then stigma in the medical system is particularly frustrating. And stigma shows up in medical bias through a lack of cultural knowledge and humility, the ism culture, right? So sexism, racism, ageism, ableism, classism, etc., things like that. Ageism is becoming more and more of an issue for those of us who have been living with HIV for a long time. And it is something I think that we should all be aware of and know how to recognize and how to deal with. And then there's our co-occurring conditions, right? Otherwise known as comorbidities, which leads us into having multiple providers and having to find specialty care, which can also be frustrating. And with that comes navigating the complex care of having these multiple morbidities and having to go different places to see different specialists. And then, as we are all aware of right now, policy changes are very much impacting the care that we have and the quality of care that we're able to receive. And then finally, access and literacy. So it's really important when we're talking about access and literacy to recognize that we're not just talking about the access to care. And we're not just talking about whether or not you understand how to say the name of a medication for literacy, right? We're talking about your ability. Literacy encompasses the ability to actually navigate the healthcare system and get what you need. And if you don't know where to get it, how to find where to get it. And so it's important when you're looking for your voice to understand what it is that you're looking for. So, what are you trying to get out of your healthcare? What does your healthcare mean to you? And you want to try to establish what those needs are and what those wants are. So, how are you approaching your healthcare? Some of us want to go to the doctor, get our medication, and keep it pushing, right? And then there are other people like me. I want to know as much as I possibly can because that makes me feel empowered. And so, how do you approach that? How many times are you seeing your clinician a year? Is it twice a year for labs, or is it more than that? Particularly if you're living with co-occurring conditions, or and this is something that I want all of you to consider, is you also need to make sure that if you are trying to prevent co-occurring conditions, you should be seeing your clinician more often. What are your social and support needs? As you're aging, are you thinking about whether or not you want to go into long-term care or if you want to age in place at home? What does your community and family support look like? You know, for many people in the LGBTQ community, we have chosen family as opposed to having blood relatives and family. And so what does that structure look like as you and your chosen family start to age together? And then what are your future planning needs that may include medical aspects? And what I mean by that is if you have a will or if you have a power of attorney and you want someone to have power of attorney over your medical needs, that requires a doctor's signature. So are you thinking about that? A do not resuscitate order. And then also a post, which I recommend that people have as well. A post is more specific than a do not resuscitate order because it tells them what to do if certain conditions apply and how to handle it. So that's something that everyone should look into. So let's talk about the role of advocacy real quick. So advocacy is acting on behalf of another group and may be enacted by your medical team or volunteers. And it could just be focused on larger systemic changes or your individual support. Self-advocacy is when we are specifically advocating for our own needs, preferences, and rights, right? This is asserting your personal power and you are intentional in your involvement and how you get involved in the decisions that impact your life specifically, and then to a certain extent, the broader community around you. So finding your voice. Many of us have been living with HIV for a long time and we know what our voice is, but sometimes that may shift and change as our medical needs change, as our ability to deal with what's happening with us change. And much like right now, when there's so much outside influence going on. And so inwardly looking, your voice is developing your perspectives, opinions, and your identity. This may be influenced by your experience, your external environment, society, policy, those types of pressures. Your voice is influenced by these things, but it doesn't have to be controlled by these things. So outwardly, when you are finding your voice, it is saying the things you say, how you talk, how you express yourself through writing or through art. The outward projection of your voice is influenced by how often you use it and whether or not you feel heard when you're using your voice and your level of confidence in doing that. And how often you feel heard and seen may impact your level of confidence when it comes to projecting your voice outwardly. So things that impact your voice are going to be your sense of self-awareness and the awareness of things going on around you. Stigma is a big part of this, like I said in the beginning, and there is perceived stigma, internalized stigma, and enacted stigma. And those are all related, but they're all slightly different. Your confidence obviously makes a difference in your voice. Your health literacy, like I talked about before. The authenticity and finding your voice is really, really important. No one can do you the way that you can do you. You are uniquely created and uniquely positioned to know what it is that you need and what you want. And then how you express yourself in your voice matters as well. So tone, cadence, inflection. Are you coming in guns blazing? Get it done now? Are you asking politely but persistently? And that's, again, personal choice on how you choose to use your voice in its outward projection. And so using your voice in healthcare settings, what does that look like? And keeping in mind, this is not the truth for everyone. And it's not always the truth at any given point in time in your journey living with HIV. So you want to address things as quickly as possible. This may include asking for an interpreter. It also may be asking for a patient advocate or a social worker. And it also really is being consistent. We have a hard time asking for things as a people. And we have to ask for help because people can't fix what they don't know. You want to address the isms and understand how the isms are manifesting. And so these are biased norms in society. So things that society think are normal and therefore the only accepted way to be. The easiest example is heteronormativity versus being a member of the LGBTQ community, right? Folks who subscribe to strictly heteronormativity may not want to hear you because they're biased against that, right? And so recognizing what those are makes a difference. They can make you feel dehumanized, and they definitely reinforce stereotypes. And once you are reinforcing stereotypes, you're also reinforcing old fears, old bias, whether it is external or internal. And once you understand what the isms are in your life and how they show up in your healthcare, you have to practice intentionality in confronting them and also be able to practice self-reflection. And what I mean by that is that if you have had certain behaviors projected on you over and over and over again, you start to expect that thing to happen, right? You walk into every situation thinking that same thing is going to happen again, and it may not be because each person is different. And so that is what I mean by practicing self-reflection and being intentional, both in how you react to things and your behavior once those things happen. You always want to ask clarifying questions, right? This doesn't work for me. What other options do I have? You do have a right to ask for a second opinion, folks, as difficult as that can be. I don't understand that acronym. What does it mean? Ask for clarification. I am a fan of educating yourself. As I said, it makes me feel more empowered. The more that I know, the more confident I feel. That doesn't mean I necessarily argue with everything that I'm told, but at least I have a starting point. So the more you know and understand, the easier it is to ask questions and be able to fight back. And when I say fight back, I don't necessarily mean raise hell. I just mean that you can counter what is happening and be able to open up the lines of communication. You should be encouraging shared decision making, and that means you should be in a respectful, bi-directional relationship with your provider. You do not have to, and I've said this before and I say it all of the time, you don't have to love your provider, but you should respect them and you should be able to trust them. And if that is not something that can happen, then it's time to look for it, which can be very, very difficult. But you know, that whole frog and prince analogy, sometimes you got to kiss frogs to find a prince. That's true when it comes to navigating healthcare settings and finding your voice. Your insurance can help you with that. Your peer navigators and social workers can help you with that. But it is very, very important that you have a bi-directional relationship with your provider, meaning you can ask questions that they answer thoroughly and honestly, and they can also ask you questions that you answer thoroughly and honestly, because a person cannot fix what they do not know. And if you are not being honest and upfront about what's happening in your life, your clinician cannot help you come up with a care plan that's going to make sense. And so practical strategies, I'm just going to run through these pretty quickly. Know your rights, which include confidentiality and informed consent, meaning you understand everything that's happening. Please prepare for your appointments. Keep a record. You don't have to bring in 10 years of what's been happening with you, but at least have handy, you know, what's going on the last 2 to 5. You can use a digital patient record to help you keep this. Please communicate early and often. This means planning, right? Make your appointments early, keep your appointments. Try to use I statements and respond to issues around stigma and disrespect immediately rather than allowing them to fester and grow over time. The quicker that you address them, the less likely they are to continue to happen. You want to, again, manage your records and forms, so medication history, referrals and follow-ups. Yes, your doctor should know if they refer you to someone when you come back to see them, what those notes are. But maybe the other office didn't communicate that. So make sure that when you're attending referrals that you're asking for your records to be sent over to your doctor and vice versa, right? Making sure that the person that you're seeing has the relevant records from your provider or your clinician. Stay informed on what's going on with insurance. That's cost, re-enrollment, recertifications. There's a lot of news right now, heavy about changes that may be coming to the Affordable Care Act and Medicare. So make sure that you're aware of those. And the best way to do that is to attend either webinars presented by the state that you live in, or go to those state websites to get the most relevant information. Know about assistance programs. And this is where you use your resources, your case management, your navigators, pharmacists. Pharmacists are an underutilized resource. Please use them. And then I was talking about acronyms in the last slide: ASOs, AIDS Service Organization, and CBOs, community-based organizations. And then, of course, much like the WELL Project, your online resources. And then lastly, some personal considerations. Manage your mental health. You matter, your mental health matters. There is enough struggle and strife going on externally, with let alone you having to battle internally. So do what you can to manage your mental health. You really are your own best advocate, because again, you know what you need, you know where you stand, you know what you want. So please use your voice. When you advocate for yourself, remember that you are advocating for others. Every time you correct a behavior that happens in a medical space, you're doing that for the next person who may come in. Be honest about your lifestyle choices and challenges. Take your time, but don't waste your time. All right. Take your time to make sure that you understand things, but don't waste time and end up in stage 4 of something when you could have caught it at stage 1 or stage 2. I hope that makes sense and doesn't offend anyone, but that's the best analogy that I have for that. Take your time, but don't waste your time. Build your healthcare team beyond your medical providers. Again, family support, friends, social workers. You always have the right to say no. You always have the right to say no. You also always have the right to say yes. Both of those things are equally important for your healthcare. And then how do you take control of your healthcare? Preventative screenings, preventative screenings, preventative screenings. Cannot stress that enough. Preventative screenings. Take a whole person approach to your healthcare. Lifestyle, diet, exercise, quit smoking, managing your stress, all of those things. Plan ahead, get moving. And when I say get moving, I mean get moving physically, but also get moving on the things that you need to do so that you're not procrastinating and waiting until the last minute. And then ask for help. And with that, we'll move into our discussion and conversation with our panelists. I do want to pop this up here. Shout out to the WELL Project. It's a shameless plug. I can't help it. We do have a newsletter, if you're not subscribed, that you can subscribe to, and I can put that back up later if I need to. So for right now, I'm going to stop sharing. We are all back in the space. Thank you, thank you. Any questions on what I've gone over before we jump into our conversation with the panelists? Alicia, I see you.
So not a question, but a comment. You mentioned, like, of course, advocating for yourself, utilizing navigators, social workers, etc. But we have people who are in rural areas and they have one doctor and they can't fire their doctor. Any, maybe key suggestions for people who are in situations like that that may have maybe some issues or headbutting with their physicians?
I do. You know what? At the end of the day, conversation is how we recognize what is going on with the other person and they recognize what is going on with us. And when you are headbutting with the only person that you can see, it makes it super difficult. So what I recommend in situations like that is you find the nurse that you trust, the front desk person that you trust, the administrator of the hospital, and you ask that you sit down and have a one-to-one kind of conversation with this clinician so that each of you can kind of understand where the other is coming from. I'm the first to admit I've had some terrible, terrible, terrible experiences with healthcare clinicians based on stigma, bias, and them just not listening to me. But I've also had really, really good ones. And the ones that I have the really good ones with are those that I can talk to. And so find that person that you do trust or that you do feel like is honest and upfront with you in the clinic and ask for a mediation. That's also an entitlement under the insurance that you have. So ask for that. And my recommendation, if you're going into that type of situation, is that by that point, you're already pissed off, right? Like you're done. You're ready to throw your hands up, but you can't. So take a breath, mind your mental, find a space where you know that this is the resolution that needs to happen. And so try to go into it with a positive attitude and try to go into it with a listening ear and an open heart. And you can't control what the other person does, but you can control your behavior and the way that you react to the things that they do. And so ask for mediation. That was the long way to get to that answer. I hope that made sense. Any other questions? 7 seconds. All right. So I'm going to jump into this conversation with our amazing panelists. I have a question for each of you. I will, let's start. Greg, let's start with you. What has been your biggest challenge in using your voice in healthcare? And what have you done to try to help overcome that?
Thank you. Biggest challenge. My biggest challenge was actually started a long time ago when I was not newly diagnosed, but switching meds and getting a doctor to actually listen to me because I didn't fit in the cookie cutter model that I needed to take it at this time, because it didn't work with my work schedule. And I ended up having to literally take an entire office visit, and we sat there and we talked. And at first, he didn't want, this is what they say I'm supposed to do. That was his model. Mine was, I understand that, but I'm the one that's got to do this. And if I got to do it, I need to do it the way it's going to fit me. And he ended up listening to me. And when he did listen to me, he was like, you know what? I've just been going off what the book said. So I never thought about how it really affects the person that I'm giving it to. Because of that, he ended up switching it to what it needed to be. But then he also started doing presentations on how to listen to your patient to actually get what they need to get. So that was one of my biggest. My most recent has nothing to do with HIV. You said I told you I've been married for 15 years. My wife is dealing with multiple myeloma cancer. So I'm also her advocate when I need to be. So I went to her doctor and he had something that went on and he was like, well, I need to increase her dose. So I went to him one day and I was like, I understand why you had to increase it. Please don't take this the wrong way. I just need to know when we gonna start back decreasing. And he proceeded to give me this long, real no answer. And I came back to I responded the same way. I understand what you're saying. However, when are we going to? So I was just persistent about when are we going to start slowing this down. The very next week, they started taking her down. So it's just the things you have to do for me. And because I do it for me, one of the things you said in your slides one of the things that happens when I do it for me, it does open the door for other people to be able to get some of the stuff. So yeah, that's me. That's me. Uh-oh.
You're muted, Bridget.
Oh, there you go.
Sorry, I was. Um, Randall said that he's sending positive prayers and energies lifted for your wife, and I want to add that. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that,
Thank you.
and really illustrating persistence because that is critically important. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
So
I can be
yeah,
annoying when I need to be.
there's nothing wrong with being a little annoying when the end result is going to be taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's go with Cece and ask her the same question. What's been one of your biggest challenges and how have you navigated?
So one of my biggest challenges, first, thank y'all for allowing me to be here. I feel so like honored to be in this space because my bio said 11 years. I don't know how old that bio is, but I'm 17 years into this diagnosis, and sometimes like I don't fit into that long-term survivor space, but I'm also not newly diagnosed. So thank y'all for allowing me to share this space with you. So I think one of my biggest challenges I know has been like fighting for my bodily autonomy as a person living with HIV. Like, I understand, like Greg was saying, this is what y'all saying and this is what y'all, but this is how my life is going. Like, I don't, where I come from, we don't necessarily plan out pregnancies. My daddy just said, let the youth come. And that's what happens is you get pregnant and you deal with it afterwards. Now, at HIV diagnosis, the doctor wants me to plan for a pregnancy and I feel some type of way because you pushing birth control on me. Why are you doing this, miss? Or, the decision on how I was going to feed that child, or even the choice of what formula my child was going to get was taken away from me because of my diagnosis. And why do I lose out on which formula it is just because of my HIV diagnosis? Or, it just so many people have a vision of how your life should be lived, whether it is a provider or someone else on the street or a stranger you don't even know. They put all of us in this one box. And because you're living with HIV, I just got the other day that dating should be a no-no. Like, if you think that we stop dating at an HIV diagnosis, you have to go back to the drawing board and reconsider all of the things that you know about this virus. And how I continue to fight for that is I continue to live my life out loud because so many of us, the treatment may not cause, the same, be as toxic as it was at the beginning of the diagnosis. Thank you all for who tried out those earlier drugs and have side effects to this day because of it. Because of that, I get the benefit from drugs that are easier on me. So I appreciate that. But because it's not coming with this look or this, people think that you should be able to tell if somebody is living with HIV. Sometimes it begins to be that silent virus that people stigmatize, but then don't want to acknowledge. It is still there. It is still prevalent, and it still impacts many of the decisions that I make for myself.
Absolutely. To your point, I always say my hormones did not stop hormoning just because I got HIV. And I am single and trying to mingle. It's hard. And then I also want to highlight Jeff says this all of the time, but if you feel like a long-term survivor, then you're a long-term survivor. Um, and so I appreciate that about Jeff saying that because you and I have had that conversation before about, it's relative. And it doesn't take anything away from someone who's been living with HIV for 30 years for me to feel like, I'm a long-term survivor at 13. So thank you for bringing that into the space. Miss Kim, you up, girl. It's on you.
Yeah. I
Let's talk about one of your biggest challenges and what you're doing.
First I need to start by also saying thank you for inviting me into this space. It's always a pleasure when I get to share space with amazing, beautiful humans. Second thing I want to point out is and I have my notes, I kept writing the word intentional. And I say that to say these slides, this presentation, I could tell, and I do a lot of these, I could tell this was human centered. It was very intentional. So I'm Bridget or whoever came up with the slides. Thank you. So to my answer, there's a two-part answer. Before working in healthcare, my biggest struggle was providers weren't listening to me. They thought they knew me better than me. Once I found out of my diagnosis, I was led to believe that it was either viral suppression or transitioning. And for many years, that's just what I thought I had to do. I had to get to undetectable. Mind you, I actually went in to medically transition through my doctor at the time, and then I found out I had tested positive. And again, I was, led to believe that I was crazy or I was angry or, I was focused on the wrong thing. When in reality, I was like, at the time, I did not care. I didn't know enough and I was very ignorant of, my diagnosis, but I knew I needed to medically transition or there was no point of living. So that was the first thing. And again, that happened many years and it did lead me to meeting great mentors, my doctor now and mentors like Bridget. Now that I work in healthcare, my biggest struggle is outside of my PCP, who is also my mentor, that shit's still happening. But because I know better now, I am constantly, speaking up or having to advocate for myself. Even sometimes others, if I'm in a waiting room and I see people getting misgendered or treating less than, I do speak up. And I don't want to say that it has become a burden, but it has become stressful because when you know better, you want to do better, you want to show better, but then that takes on a life of its own. So before I was oblivious what should be done and what can be done. Now that I know better, I'm constantly speaking up, constantly doing, and sometimes outside of my primary care, it just becomes, I'm seen as maybe I'm difficult or, she's, speaking up too much or, it's like, you're here for one thing, girl. And I'm like, yes, I'm here for example, I had to I had to see neurology recently, and the entire thing from the forms to the meeting with the nurse to meeting with the specialist, I was like, this is stigmatizing as shit. So I spoke up every step of the way, and when I finally saw the neurologist, I could just tell we were not going to be on the same. We weren't going to be on the same wavelength just because of all the things I had interjected in her office. And I said, hey, this would really help patients if you A, B, or C, not just me, but other patients. And I think that does sometimes, no one talks about it enough, but it does sometimes create a barrier for me because here I am now, I know better. And I'm going to say something. I'm going to be intentional, like we just heard, but now it's creating another barrier because it's like, well, we don't want to see her. She's going to keep bringing it up. She's going to keep telling us how it is. And because of the color of my skin, because of maybe my gender, it's going to be like, no, she's a challenge or she's the angry Black woman. And I promise you, I've never been angry a day in my life. So
That is such a fair assessment. And, you know, for women, particularly, especially for Black women, but for women in general, no matter what we look like on the outside, if we are assertive, then we're aggressive, right? If we speak up for ourselves, then we're difficult, like the words that you're using, right? And that's part of the challenge in being able to really effectively use our voice because we end up having to spend so much time defending what we're not that we're losing sight of what is really supposed to be happening. And that's really what you were illustrating, right? Like I have to do this, this, and this. It's exhausting already. And now I got to deal with you not wanting to deal with me because I've been speaking out. So I feel that like the weight of advocacy is heavy. I think probably everyone on this call knows that, right? Like it is the everything else on top of the diagnosis and the stigma and the all of that, right? You know, I always say sometimes HIV stigma, sometimes it's thin as a pancake, and sometimes it's like a mattress on your back that you're walking. Um, I have another question for y'all, and anyone or all of you can take this. Because we talk about the negative a lot, right? Like what are the bad things? But what's a good experience that you've had that you can relay that is an illustration of what happens when you do speak up for yourself and there's a positive outcome. Because I think as a nurse, I get the negative stuff, but I always like to hear the positive stuff too, because I think that's important too. Has there been someone that has stood up for you in a medical space that has opened up or changed slightly the way that you feel about healthcare or made it a better space for you? Like personally, I have had 8 clinicians in 13 years with HIV. It's outrageous, outrageous. But I've also had, right now, I have a really great clinician who does listen to me, who sees me, because he remembers things about me without having to check his notes and without having to check his chart. So what's a positive experience that you've had? Anybody?
I'll go. I'll go. And then I wanted to speak to Kim's point. Like the advocacy and the being tired. Like some days you go in the doctors and I see stuff that is wrong and I don't even feel like it no more. Cause I know that as soon as I say something, the door that's going to be open. And I don't know if sometimes I'm thinking about the way that I'm gonna be perceived, but I just don't feel like it. God dang. Whether it's at the HIV doctor or the pediatrician, the folks for my daddy, like all types of stuff. Why y'all ask that question that way? I sit and look at surveys and research all the time, and like this isn't how they would have done it here. Why are y'all doing it to the most vulnerable people in this city? Are y'all so? But where I have seen this positively work is like advocating for myself to be able to breastfeed my youngest baby. It started off really bad. Like they threatened to call Child Protective Services. Heather's how I was able to actually get access to know what the process was like. So first the advocacy led me to other community members who had the experience that I wanted, who was then able to hold my hand and walk me down what that process should look like. So I loved it from that point. I loved it from those folks that threatened to call Child Protective Services on me on their website right now. That was 4 years ago, but right now you can look on their website and they're offering breastfeeding support. So I'm like, yo, that happened. Then the guidelines got updated into 2023. That that did it. Then like the pediatrician we worked with, I kept asking her like, why are you not studying this? Like study me. We're doing it. Study me. And now she's actively in breastfeeding and HIV research in the United States. So I've seen my advocacy just for my own self impact the life of so many different people that's positive. It sucks to have to be the one to go through it to get there, but as long the change is happening, and that's what makes me proud.
Kim, I
Wow.
saw you come.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Well, that touched me. I love this question. So 8 years ago, I was working as a barber and men's stylist, and I loved my job. I'm a very passionate person. The positive effects that I have seen come from what happens when your clinician, doctor, or specialist sees you, like Bridget just mentioned, is me. I'm the product of that. When I met my mentor, who's, oh my God, damn it. When I met my mentor, who's my PCP, he was just listening to me. He validated me in such a way that 8 years later, because of him, I am now an award-winning medical professional, future RN. And I didn't think that I was ever going to be in a space of working in healthcare, but I am. I have amazing mentors like him, Bridget, and my boss now, Goku Marcos, Dr. Goku Marcos. And that is the impact of when someone really sees you. Really, I went in just thinking it was going to be another clinician, told him I'm tired of healthcare and this is my last straw. And he was just like, tell me about that. And I said, okay. And that conversation led to him ultimately designing the way he was going to now see patients. And he has a saying of, your clinician is supposed to be, your co-pilot, but the patient is the pilot. And ultimately you both are going to get to the destination together. But there's that role, and he means that, and he stands on business, as the kids say today. But I'm the product of what happens when, advocacy and patient-centered appointments happen, and it's me. So that's why I really like this question. On top of that, I have, like I said, I'm an award-winning medical provider, and I've also seen the impact of my advocacy and the type of person that I am when I do speak up for that patient that might feel voiceless when it comes to retention in healthcare. I work at a very small private clinic, and we do specialize in research. And we were nationally known as the highest enrolling site for a prevention study that was looking for marginalized communities, specifically gender diverse communities. And we, a small little clinic in Palm Springs, was the highest enrolling site on the West Coast. And a part of that is, one, representation matters. Me, hello, hi, I'm representation. And two, people want to be seen, and I make it my damnness to make sure all my patients are seen and heard, and they feel valid, and they feel that they are in control of their healthcare, no matter if it's just, research and beyond. So I'm a product of that. So thank you for this question. That was amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Greg, do you want to tackle that one? If not, I have another specific question I want to ask you.
Okay, let's go to that one.
Okay. So, I was talking about your support system, helping you find your voice in the slides. And I'm just wondering how you and your wife work together to encourage each other, or do you guys fight about how the other person is handling or not handling their healthcare? How do you guys navigate your individual healthcare and your couple healthcare, right? As a couple, how do you guys do that?
So individually, we are each other's biggest cheerleaders as far as for healthcare, for mental health, for all of it, right? Then we also, strangely enough, both of us are in the community. Today, my wife probably would be on here, but she runs a women's group on what is this, the second Wednesday of the month. I do a men's support group on the first. So our lives are kind of pulled, but we make it work. We make it work because one, for the love that we have, but two, because when we talk about living with HIV, it is not it's not for show. It's what we live. This is what we do daily. This is what we wake up with. And because we are aging, we have gone from, okay, we just got to worry about HIV, to now we're worrying about multiple myeloma. We're worried about arthritis. We're worried about all the other stuff that comes along with getting old. And you said something, no, CC said something earlier about how your hormones be working. Here's the funny thing about that. Even when you get old, your hormones still working. So so don't think that you can put anybody in a box that says, okay, it stopped at that point. No, it does not. So, but no, me and my wife, we make it work. And yes, there are times that we do. She's on me because I didn't do something, and I'm on her because she didn't do something. The one thing neither one of us has ever done is missed an appointment. So,
I love that.
and the other part of it is when stuff is going on with me, and I know my appointment's 2 months down the road, she's writing this list of stuff that she hears me complaining about. I start to do it with her. And so, yeah, we kind of compliment each other with that. Thank you for that question, though. Thank you for real.
Yeah, I mean, Our support systems matter. And when we don't have the support system or the village, it can make it really, really frustrating and really hard. Like, I mean, we're talking about hormones. And for me, that has been one of the spaces that I've really had to advocate for myself in. All of the clinicians that I've had, none of them have ever since my diagnosis, none of them have volunteered or asked me proactively about STI testing, except for the last two. And both of them happen to be male, right? Like there's this assumption that, and it works a couple of ways. There's an assumption that women all of a sudden become asexual, but that men are still going to be sexual. And so the presumption is you have to test them. And there has to be a meeting in the middle, right? Like, I having to say, can I get STI testing, and seeing the look of clutching their pearls come over their face when I'm asking for that, right? Or CC, you talking about bodily autonomy. There are certain things that we shouldn't have to ask for, that we do, right? And we know this as, probably everyone on this call knows this. Living with HIV, you have to ask for certain things, and we shouldn't have to. But the fact is that often we do have to. I wish I had a soulmate to be able to help me navigate some of this stuff sometimes, because it does get heavy. But the support system is a critical part of how we stay engaged in care, and intentional in being engaged in our care. And so to that end, if there was a solid piece of advice about intentionality, that you can give to someone, what would that be?
I'm gonna just say the first thing that come off my head. Y'all look like y'all want to think, so I'm gonna just answer. Okay. So intentionality. So like those appointments, we know that you don't get much time in there with them doctors. So I want to make sure when I go in there, I love the list that you and your wife doing, Greg, because these are the top things that I need to address today. If I could maybe communicate it to them through like the portal, if maybe I needed, a prescription refilled or a test put in, I'm going to save those less pressing things for another time. But right now, I need to ask you this question face to face, and I need to see your response when I ask the question, and I need to get all of those things. So whether that is, a medication change or a test that I want, but you say that I'm not old enough to get yet. But I feel like I'm old enough to get it, because what I'm learning from y'all is that HIV ages our body. So am I really like 37 or am I 47? And if I was really 47 on the inside, that means I should be getting tests done now. But now y'all won't even do it for me because I'm not old enough. So I need to sit here in your face and explain to you why it is, because I've seen it in my community. I've seen it happening, and those types of things can't be handled over a phone call or email sometimes. So I'm going in there with my list of questions, sometimes even thinking what I want the outcome to be before I go in there. Preparing for if there is pushback. Like when I was delivering that baby, I drugged up as I wanted to be, because I didn't want to feel nothing, but I was still in a place of having to advocate for myself alongside with my partner. And so I had pamphlets, I had numbers for folks you had to call. So the intentionality piece was, okay, if it goes this way, I'm going to respond this way. If it goes this way, I'm going to so thinking. Sometimes we can't just show up to that appointment. You don't even know what's going to be going on that day that you got that appointment. You might have thought you was going to remember everything, but something else happened on the way to the appointment. Now you're focused on that during your precious 15 minutes that you get with this doctor. So intentionality, I think, is really, really important so that we can make sure that we're expressing our needs to the provider in a way that they can understand, that it's well thought out, and that they can get, so that is what they're responding to.
Yes. Amen. Thank you for that. Kim?
I agree. I think for me, be intentional with your wants compared to like your needs. Like I want to be on Ozempic, but I need to have better lifestyle choices. Like, I need to be a little bit more healthier in that department. So it's like I want to, you know, A, B, or C, but what do I need? I need to show up to my appointments. I need to, someone mentioned it earlier, have a list or have in mind what we're going to talk, because the reality is a lot of these clinicians only have but certain time. So if I go in there like, well, I've been good, like, what's new with you? I'm on, you know, we wasting time. What am I here for? Did I get my blood work done? What are we going to discuss in my blood work? Do I want labs? Like, you know, just be more intentional with your wants compared to your needs. You know, and then what your wants are gonna, you know, they matter too, and that's where us advocates will come in and be like, bop, 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 bop. But just be more intentional with what you need compared versus what you want. And I need to take the advice too. So.
And for
Right.
me, thank you, Kim, because one of the things for me is lately I've been having to switch providers, but I've had basically my providers been my providers for a long time, and they get a little too friendly. Not too friendly, but well, yeah, too friendly. So when we go in, the first 10 minutes is about how you doing, how's your wife doing, what's going on, da, da, da. No, what did the lab say? What did the lab say? And I also got this new thing that I need to talk about. So I kind of learned how to compartmentalize and shut that first part down. Let's get to the meat of what we got to do, and then we can have that fun conversation later on. So I became intentional about when I come through the door, when you come through the door, hi, how you doing? What's going on with this, versus we down this other rabbit hole that has nothing to do with anything except you want to know what socially we're doing and all that. So does it really matter in a medical setting that we like the same restaurant? I don't think so. So
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
go more to what the labs say, and then I'm more visual than anything. So when you're telling me something, especially as a new regimen, and you want me to take this pill, tell me how it acts. Draw it out. Show me how it works for me. Then I understand it. When you just tell me and give me a script and say, go down to the pharmacy and pick it up, no, that's not working for me. So we stop and we go through. So those are things I learned a long time ago, and I've been intentional about those since I learned it. So
Can I
Also,
add one little thing, Bridget? I just want to add, if we could all together be a little bit nicer to our nurses, because before your clinician or provider comes in, your nurse is getting stuff ready, and when your clinician or provider leaves, your nurse is doing, like, you do not leave that nurse, even though she might have walked out the room and your provider walked in. That nurse is doing things for you that you don't even know, and she did not make your appointment at 7 a.m. That wasn't her. So if we could just be a little bit more nice, because those nurses really do, like, for me, nurses have changed my life. So, like, a little bit more nicer, because those nurses, like, they know your name, they know stuff about you that your clinician might not even know. So just, you know, just a little bit.
I'm not gonna argue with that in the least little bit, because amen. You know, just on the intentionality piece for me, I have had to, so I'm in menopause right now, oversharing a little bit, but the brain fog is killing me. Like, it's bad. And the other part that is got its foot on my neck is the mood swings. And so I've had to be intentional about, number one, focusing on the appointment and what I want to have accomplished. And number two, watching my temper, and watching what the Scorpio, my evil Scorpio twin, tries to say sometimes, which ties into, right, these expectations that we set and that we have when we walk into spaces, and having a particular outcome in our brain. And so that is where a lot of my intentionality goes, is towards paying attention to how I'm feeling in the moment and what I need to do to meet the moment, right? What I need to do to shift the mood. Because sometimes, like you were talking about, Kim, sometimes I've been in spaces as a nurse where I've been I'm on, I'm having a good day. Like, let's go. I'm ready to see you. Let's make it happen. And that one patient, right, is like, and I'm ready to. And so it's the resetting and the being intentional about my mood and my attitude and the way that I am approaching into situations. Greg, I see your hands up. Go right ahead.
No, I wanted to respond to something that was in the chat. Jerry said, don't you think what is going on in your life affects your health? Maybe your choice of restaurants is not the healthiest choice for you. For that part, I do agree. That could be very well. However, when this particular physician was talking to me, liking this restaurant, not because of what everything was. I'm in Norfolk, so I'm in Virginia, so I'm on the water. It was about, is this seafood restaurant better than this seafood restaurant? It wasn't which was the healthiest. It was just about, do you like this one better than that one? So yeah, I do appreciate your comment, Jerry, but yeah, that was not about my health. That was just about finance and which restaurant you thought was best.
So speaking of our attentive and intentional audience, does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask or any points that they would like to interject into the conversation? Please feel free to raise your hand. I'm happy to call on you, have you come off mute. Miss Wanda, I see you. Go ahead.
The hardest part is coming off of mute, y'all. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
a couple of things here. And is it CC? Is that how you're titled? Okay, hi, I'm Wanda. I am at the tender age of 71, 23 of said years at being gifted with HIV along my journey, and 13, I think, with the diagnosis of AIDS, depression, blah, 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 went off my meds, da, da, da. Anyway, but a couple of things. Number one, there, each one of you in your own way are, three of you are professional healthcare providers. And Greg, I remember you from C2EA back at the last meeting that they ever had there in your home. I met you and your wife. So you, in your way, are also a healthcare provider, because anybody living with HIV and accepts it for what it is, it's a virus. You know, we got a medication that we are fortunate enough to take that keeps the devil beat down. But anyway, what I like about each one of you saying is, number one, be kind to nurses. Hello, yes. I'm just saying, RN of 20 years, retired, and once a nurse, always a nurse. But anyway, the last thing you said was being scared of menopause. And this goes for you too, Bridget. Um, and any other woman that is dealing with it. And men go through a menopause. Just so you know, they do. It's all about the hormones, and the hormones get to kicking and screaming and crying and whining and all this other stuff in our bodies, and that goes along with our HIV, which probably exacerbates it. It does cause the menopause to start earlier at a younger age than people think. And you may have to kick your doctor's butt to get them to agree to that fact, because a lot of doctors are uneducated about HIV and the travels that we go through with it. So it's up to us, because we are subject matter. Thank you, Randall. I forgot what that was called. I appreciate you, my friend. Um, apologies. But anyway, there are ways to deal with it if you can take hormones. I can tell you what works for me. You go to Walmart and you get the extra strength ester blend and some black cohosh. Within a couple of weeks, baby, my world flipped back to an almost normal being. But that's just one thing. The other thing I wanted to say to you, each of you, is that regardless of your age, we now, and Jeff, I think you can verify this with me, we now count anybody 10 years surviving with HIV as we call you're a long-term survivor. And we have programs through NMAC that we can get you can be a part of and sign up for their email newsletters. And we have a new entity that we started there. It's called National HIV and Aging Awareness Network, NAN for short. And we're working diligently with those of us that have been going this journey,
Yeah.
because
It's
and
a lot.
you're all welcome. And if you want to join the 50 plus strong and healthy page on Facebook, I'm one of the moderators. I will be happy to welcome you in. The only requirement is there's like 3 questions and an agreement to the group rules. Other than that, that's it. And you can bring your knowledge, your questions, whatever. We're there for you.
Thank you, Miss Wanda, for all of that and for being a source of community, right? That is important and it matters. So I appreciate all of that. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And you were talking about menopause, and because you did, I'm gonna do another shameless plug. The Well Project will be actually hosting a menopause roundtable next month. So be on the lookout for information on that. I see that there are some folks on here who might benefit from that conversation.
Agreed.
And, we definitely don't exclude our gentlemen, because everybody has a woman in their life who may benefit. So just throwing that out there. Any other audience participation questions? Want to say hi to Miss Melanie Reese. I see her on the call. Shout out to you. So another kind of aspect of using your voice and advocating and navigating healthcare is what we do when we get fatigued, when we just don't feel like it, when you don't feel like going to the appointment, when you don't feel like taking the meds. What do you do in those times? How do you advocate for yourself? What kind of self-talk are you doing in order to manage that space? And because this is such a random question, I'm gonna go ahead and answer it first. And I am an affirmations person. I don't know if any of you are. I know a lot of people who think affirmations are dumb, but they are the thing that has really, honest to God, gotten me through most of my journey with HIV. Like I used to, giving myself affirmations or saying affirmations were something for me to do until I could figure out what I was gonna do. And so for me, when I started getting into those spaces, affirmations are how I work my way through it, right? So 2 of my favorite are, the first is, if you can't find the light, be the light. That's my all-time favorite. And as a nurse, that is what I live by. That's my nursing affirmation, is trying to be the light, even on the days when I'm having a bad day, or when that patient, that 1 or 2 patients came in and gave me the blues. And then my other really favorite affirmation is fall down 7, get up 8. And so when I don't feel like taking my meds, I use an affirmation to remind myself that and when I don't feel like keeping that appointment, I remind myself that I would like to be here for another X amount of years. So just curious, how do you all motivate yourself? What's your internal talk to get you through those spaces? Kim, I see you're off mute first.
Yeah, I'll start. I think for me, the first thing is knowing my options. I know it's not for everyone, but for me, switching to a long-acting injectable has been a life changer for me, because I was someone who there's just a lot of stress at different point in time, so I just wasn't taking my meds the way I should have been. And then just knowing there was an option out there that I can just boop every 2 months definitely has been really, just life changing on that regard. And then 2, knowing the people in my community, or my village, I should say, my support system, my village. I know people who are gonna, if I tell them, yeah, I'm not taking those drugs, or girl, it's been a long week, I just forgot, they will hold me accountable. They will give me that tough love I need. And for me, that does help. You know, I'll tell Bridget, I'll tell, you know, Anthony, my friends, my village. My village is really my village, y'all. Like, is my heart. So I know that if I go to them with my what I call bullshit, they won't be rude about it. They won't judge me, but they will hold me accountable, and they'll make space for me. And that will be the affirmation I need to get my stuff together. So.
Greg?
The not wanting to take the meds, I get there. But again, when I get there and I put it out, that's why I say we each other's back. So when I say something to my wife, it's like, you're not leaving me, so you might as well get your behind and go do what you got to do. And it's a thought. So for me, usually it's a thought. If I give it a little bit of time, it's gonna pass and it'll something else will come up. But yeah, I don't, the just being tired and exhausted from always doing stuff, that I haven't figured out, except every now and then we get to shut down for about a week. And for that week, we don't even have a cell phone on. For anybody that needs to get in touch with us, if you didn't know this was our week, you find out, and we'll get back to you next week. Because that is just 1 week. We usually go somewhere, and it's not like we go to some exotic place. We just go up the road a little bit where we don't know people.
Shout out to a staycation. I love that for y'all.
And we
Absolutely.
just do us and chill, and that's it. So that might sound simple, but that's how we do it.
It sounds like magic to me. I love that.
That's our way of dealing with it. Same thing with her when she gets on that. Oh, it's too long. It's too many pills. You're gonna take them pills. I ain't got time for that. So,
Love it. Cissy, anything?
So I love that Kim mentioned the injectable, because that has also been helpful in my life, because sometimes I get in that bed and the pill bottle is across the room and I'm not getting up out the bed to go take the pill. And at the same time, I would like to be here to take care of my children. So that's what's making me do it, because who's going to do the baby's hair? Who's going to buy the pipe cleaners for the boy? They going to be here feeding my kids stuff that they don't even like. Like, these are the thoughts that go through my head when I think about not taking my medicine. My kids deserve to be bougie. You know, they deserve this, and nobody's going to do that the way that I do. So it's only for those types of vain reasons that I continue to do.
I
I
mean, who
love
else
my
gonna dress the
baby.
baby up as a princess mermaid? Come on now. Your mama got to do
And
that.
she has to have the match. So it is definitely the motivation of my children. That's what makes me do the right thing. Because if it was up to me, I probably would have gave up a long time ago. And it wouldn't have been driven by HIV.
And you know what? That is a stellar point, right? Like for a lot of times the ebb and flow of life. HIV is not the most important thing all of the time in the big grand picture. It's always an underlying thing. And sometimes it is the most important thing. But a lot of days, you know, it's whether or not I'm going to be able to resist strangling my grandbaby, whom I'm raising, right? You know, never mind the pills. The baby need to tell me and explain to me why the pants he left home in perfectly good condition now have a rip all the way up the inside seam. Like, how did this happen? Right. So it's balancing life and balancing HIV. So absolutely. Grace says, my dog barks at me if I try to sleep without taking my pills. Girl, what? How you train your dog to do that? That's dope. Shoot, because I definitely am much like CC. My pills be in my purse and the bra is already off. So why would I get up out of the bed to go do anything? I'm comfortable now. Right? Grace said she's the one who taught her dog how to do that. And I'm here for that. I love it. I just want to send a little reminder. Jeff has been diligent about putting it in the chat. There is a link for an evaluation on today's webinar. Please do take the evaluation because again, it helps programming and make sure that we are delivering information that you all need and that is helpful to you in your journey. If any of you are interested in the slides, I am more than happy to share those. Kim, I did come up with the slide. You know, it's that nurse. It's nurse. I just want to thank all of you for being here. One last shout out opportunity. Are there any questions in the chat? In the room? Wanda, you have your hand up. I see you. Go ahead.
Will the recording be made available?
Yes, ma'am. The recording will come out tomorrow once it's had a chance to upload and all of that. So if you were registered today, which you were because you were here, you will get a copy of the recording. Please feel free to share that and bring a friend. Each one, reach one, each one, teach one. In the last 4 minutes, last comments from my spectacular round of applause in the emoji icons for these folks. Last thoughts. Greg, I'll start with you and then we'll go Cece and Kim.
No, I just want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank the panelists because this was awesome to me. A lot of times when you do stuff, especially when you're advocating for other people, you don't never know that other people really hear what you're saying because you're so busy trying to make sure it's right. And today I got a chance to unload some stuff that y'all I probably unloaded too much, but it is always good to be able to open up to people and to meet new people who are in the same fight that I'm in. And I thank all of y'all for doing what y'all do. I really do. Kim, you will be that nurse. I can see it. I would come see you quickly. CC, you take care of the babies and you're going to be fine. Bridget, don't worry. That's a teenager. They'll be all right.
Yes, he'll be all right. It's whether or not my sanity is going to survive is the question.
You're
But
gonna
thank you. I
survive. You're gonna
appreciate
survive
that.
whether you snatch his tongue out of his mouth or not. You're gonna survive.
I love it. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Cece.
Oh, thank you, because I didn't remember where I was at. And so the last thing I would like, oh, thank you. I feel like I got a bunch of aunties and uncles and stuff now, and I really appreciate that. Like, because I really, really see, I'm gonna get emotional. This is my second panel today, and I've tried not to cry. But you, with living with this virus, you want some hope, and I'm sure with y'all at the beginning, like who was you looking to for the hope? But I got y'all. You 71? Oh, my daddy's 71, and he ain't got HIV, so I can make it to 71 with HIV. Whoa, I could have this. I could support my spouse through another, something, and we could grow old and do this together. Wow. So I really appreciate and I feel so honored, and I truly, truly mean it. Thank y'all.
Everybody, another round of hearts for Cece. She just got engaged. We're all so excited. Kim.
Congratulations. Yeah, like we had a time. I definitely piggyback off of that. I feel like I've been like wrapped in a hug. Y'all have been great. One thing I would like to say, Bridget taught me this. Make sure you're pouring from a full cup. Do whatever you have to do for your self-care because yes, we as advocates are people of, loving, kind humans. We want to pour into other people's cups as we should, but just make sure you're pouring from a full cup. I'll leave y'all with that. And thank you. It has been a time. Thank y'all. And then also just thank you, Bridget. I just love everything you do. So.
Friend, I appreciate the support and the shout out. It really does matter. I do feel the love and I do feel supported and it matters on the tough days. I want to shout out Jeff Berry and the Reunion Project for allowing me to be here and do this. It really is one of my favorite things to do. I used to hate it and it gave me like real big nerves. But I do love the opportunity to get people together to talk about things that matter. So thank you for having me. Thank you all for being here. Please, please, please fill out the evaluation. Reach out if there's anything that you need out for the Wall Project's webinar on menopause, and see you next time. Be well, be good to yourself. Bye.
Bye, thank you.
We are out. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, I just wanted to
appreciate it.
remove those other people. I just want to thank you. I know Kim, you had to go, but this was amazing, and you always have a family of support here. Cece and Bridget, thank you so much for being such an integral part of our community and of the Reunion Project. This has been amazing. The recording will go out, I don't know how quickly, because Heather's just always does that. So,
Yeah.
but thank you for taking the time. I know everyone's busy, so I really appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time.
Of
Do you know
course.
that the
Thank you.
recording is still going? So you're going to have to edit all of this background. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't